All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started here, people. Shalom, shalom, everyone. It feels like the wrong day to get together, doesn't it? Glory. Well, anyway, we are here today to look through our Torah scroll with Rabbi Dr. Michael Schiffman, and he is our esteemed guest. He's been blessing our congregation all the weekend, and had a really good time sharing with him and fellowshipping with him and learning from him. And so anyway, I'm sure he'll explain the format as we go here. He's probably going to need a couple of volunteers, but as we get him up here and get him mic'd, I'll go ahead and maybe pray just a little. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we thank you so much for gathering us together here this morning. We thank you for safety on the roads, and we thank you for just our health and your peace that passes all understanding, Lord. Just be in this meeting this morning, and Lord, we just want to learn from you. Open our eyes, open our minds, our hearts, that we can receive what you have for us this morning. And Lord, make sure you pour out a special blessing on our dear brother here, Rabbi Schiffman, and we just glorify you and praise you in Yeshua's name. Amen. I'm going to get out of the way, and we'll get this fine gentleman mic'd up. And we are live streaming the event. It was kind of a last-minute thing, but we wanted to make sure we had a recording of everything. I guess that means we'd have proof of everything that happened here today. Yeah, it's an important thing. And I'm going to get out of the way and let this fine gentleman take over. So, glory.
Sit here, you'd see better. Okay, does this just go on? Is that right?
Do you mind if I play with your ear?
Go right ahead. Just don't get fresh.
Hold that there. There we go. That should probably
Okay.
work for a little while, and you're on.
And it's on? Okay. Okay. When you're repairing a Torah, the first thing you need is a Torah. Yeah. First rule, you can watch, but you can't touch. Okay, this is what a piece of parchment looks like. This is what they write Torahs on.
Is it linen?
No, it's made from a kosher animal. It's parchment from it. That's interesting. You'll notice the back of it. You notice the difference in color? That's pigment. You know, animals have pigment just like we do. So this was like, you know, like a birthmark or something. This piece is, I use this to, as if I need pieces to glue on. That's what I use this for. It was, you know, huh?
Patch piece?
Yeah, patch, or sometimes we'll bring it over and we'll go from there. Yes. One side is scored, so you have lines. So when the sofer writes it, it's a straight line. And they use something called a Tikkun, not like the organization. This is before that. A Tikkun is the text of the Torah with the columns in a certain order and the words in a certain order. And so when they write a Torah, it's according to the Tikkun, or we'd say Tikkun. And so every line will have the same letters, the same words on that line as is in the Tikkun. So it's standardized, and it enables to tell you something. Like if you notice from this Torah, you have columns, and they're justified on both sides. They're just straight. You don't have it like line, you know, finished a little shorter. And that's because of the Tikkun. So you write it out that way, and from that tells me right away when I look at this Torah, it was written after 1750. Because some Torahs we have are very old, but they're still being used because they're still kosher and good. If it was written before 1750, it will not be justified on the left side, only on the right side. You know why? Because they didn't have a Tikkun before 1750. You have to wait until I say I have their time for questions. All right? You didn't pay me enough to just interrupt. It's all right. Okay. I'm allowed to have some fun too. So anyway, so that's one thing. If you feel that the parchment, it's a little softer on the side you write on, and I say it's produced this way for writing. The other side, you can almost see through the letters through it. That means it's a natural parchment. I got you this Torah, didn't I? I did a good job. Yeah, it's a nice Torah. Anyway, the
This was the wow Torah. You had some different levels.
oh yeah, okay.
Defined words, yeah.
You did good by getting this one. Anyway, you can almost see the letters through the back. That means it's a natural parchment. There are two kinds of parchments. There are natural parchments and what we call whitewashed parchments. And whitewashed means simply that. We take some very light white paint and you paint the back of it. And the reason they do it, partially, is because it'll strengthen the parchment, because this is very thin, produced from animal skin. And sometimes it's not strong, it's brittle, and you want it to hold. So they do that. The other reason is sometimes as a Torah gets older and the parchment gets darker, it's harder to read because there isn't much contrast. If you whitewash the back, it brings up the contrast between the letters, and so it's easier to read. And so it's a good thing, except if you do it too much, it adds to the weight of the Torah, which I'm sure you realize is limiting on who can carry it. So consequently, older Torahs, not older, I should say, heavier Torahs are cheaper. If this Torah weighed 4 pounds, you couldn't afford it because those are the ones in demand. The biggest Torahs are much bigger than this. They're German Torahs, written way before the war. But Germans like big Torahs with big letters. Everybody likes big letters because it's easier to read. But big Torahs with big letters usually weigh a lot. I got a Torah for a congregation in San Antonio, Texas. It was very big and very heavy, but they said, we just want the cheapest Torah we can get. And I said, you sure you want that? You know, I don't make any more money on something like that. It's simply, this is going to be hard to carry. They said, oh, no problem. I said, to ship it, it's going to be expensive. We're not shipping it. We have a guy who works for the airline. He'll come to your house and pick it up. And I said, fine. So I had it in a duffel bag, and he carried it with him. I think he was like he worked for the airline. So I went to visit their congregation a couple of months later. It took them 2 guys to lift it up. It was that heavy because it was like they must have had like 4 coats of paint on it. And you have to realize when you whitewash it, it's like adding the weight of a gallon of paint. So it can be really heavy. Now, if you've got a bunch of young guys, it's fine. But if you've got guys who are, not going to Gold's Gym every week, and, it limits the amount of people you can use it with. I have a small Torah with very small writing that I rent out sometimes to basically elderly Jews who live in a condo area, and they rent the Torah for the high holidays, and they also rent a rabbi. It's interesting called a rent-a-rabbi, but it's rent a rabbi and rent a Torah. I don't rent myself out, but I rent the Anyway, and it's good because they also give a nice donation to Chevra, which is a cool thing. But it's very lightweight. I go, you sure you want that Torah? It's really small writing. They go, no, it's perfect because anybody can carry it. So that's why these issues are important. They're very practical issues, but in the life of a synagogue, in the life of a shul, it's important. On Simchat Torah, you want everyone to have a chance to hold the Torah and carry it. But if some people are going to like crumple under the weight of it, it's not such a great mitzvah. So not every mitzvah is all that. Like they say, drink the wine, whatever. But they say like at a wedding, you're supposed to overflow the cup to show overflowing a blessing. If you overflow the cup and it gets on the bride's white gown, it's not such a great mitzvah. So you can put a little less in it. Okay, so this Torah has beautiful writing, and that's another factor in the price of a Torah. If it has nice writing, a nice handwriting, they're all handwritten. It took someone better part of a year to write this, and because you don't write it all at once, you might write for an hour, then you write some tefillin or mezuzahs, or you repair something else, and you come back and write another column. It usually takes about an hour to do a column if you're a good sofer. And there's something like 270-something columns. So it's a lot of hours. And so it takes a while, and the reason they're so expensive is the guy has to make a living. He's got children, he's got probably a lot of children. He's got to make a living. So, they cost a lot. And plus the materials. Before you start writing a Torah, the parchment alone is 30 years ago, it was $5,000 for blank parchment. And then you start writing, and then you've got all that in it as well. And you may have heard, there was I hate false stories. I don't know what you'd call them, Christian fantasy stories. They go, well, a Torah has to be 100% perfect, which it does. And if they count it and there's one letter off, they tear it up and start over. Now use your head. You got $5,000 in parchment, a year's worth of writing. You're going to take it up and throw it out for one letter? Do you think Jewish people are that dumb? No. You know what we do? You take an X-Acto knife and scrape off the letter, and you fix it. That's what sofers do. They repair Torahs. And they go through it, make sure everything's correct, and then they certify it. There are two words. One is kosher, which means every letter is intact and perfect. Over time, the ink can either dry out and flake off, in which case it has to be repaired, or it can fade so you can barely read it. Different things happen because ink is made in different parts of the world, and the ingredients have certain, characteristics. So that's what's involved with it, and that's why you have to do repairs from time to time. Certain areas get used more than others, and like the area Pinchas is read on the holidays, and so it gets worn out more than the rest of it, and it has to be repaired usually. It's one of the more common repairs. So that's good, and you usually get a good sofer will try to match the writing here. A Torah that has good handwriting gets more money, and a Torah that has lousy handwriting gets much less money. I once had a guy from a Reform synagogue wanted to come and buy a Torah from us. All he wanted was a brand new Torah. And I had one, it was whitewashed on both sides, which was horrible. Because if the whitewash dries off, the letters come off with it. And the handwriting, I could have done better with my left foot. That's why I don't write. So anyway, it was really terrible. And I show it to him. He goes, "This is brand new." I says, "Absolutely brand new, but it has these problems." Because you're putting money into it. It was $10,000, but a new good Torah would have been like $30,000. So I said, "This is not good parchment, and it's not good writing." And I said, "That's why it's $10,000 brand new." That's all he wanted. He wanted to donate a new Torah. So he got what he wanted, and I'm sure by now they've come to realize, it's not kosher anymore. When it's not kosher, it's called puzzle. Puzzle means it's not kosher. You can make it kosher again. the synagogue I go to, we were reading through the Torah, and the rabbi stopped and he saw a letter it was a tav. A tav looks just like a hay, except has a little curve to it. He said, we can't use this Torah anymore because it's got a tav where it should have a hay. And then he said to me, can you fix that? I said, yeah. So I'm waiting. I ordered the ink and I ordered the feather, because you use a feather that's carved like a pen, and that's how you write it. Everything's kosher on it. So, and these things here, the straps that hold it together, they're just braces, and they're there to strengthen and not put too much pressure on the seams. And they're glued on. They're pieces of parchment like this. You just cut a piece, put it on, and you glue it on with, I use Elmer's wood glue. Why? Because Elmer's comes from a cow. It is kosher. So, I don't want anything that came from a horse or a pig. I mean, as good as it may be, we used to use mucilage, but that also came from, like we used in kindergarten, that, amber-colored glue. They don't make it anymore. That was even better. So now we just use, Elmer's. Good old Elmer's. Okay, so let's get going. Any questions? See, now you can ask.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the unevenness, if that was before the Tikkun.
Before the
When
Tikkun.
did Tikkun come to be?
A group of scholars, rabbis, sofers, developed them. There are several tikkuns. There's like a 42-line tikkun and one that's more and one that's less. And they all follow one of the tikkuns. It's okay. They go, it's a 42-liner, so they know which tikkun it's from. But it just standardizes it. So one of the things you learn is, like I said, if it's not even, it was before 1750. And there are other things about it. It's just so that way you look and you know that the word you wrote is the word that it was supposed to be. Because when you write, sometimes you might misspell. It's the same. It's a handwriting. So you notice here there's a patch, this little round thing. Can you open this up? Let's see. Do we see it here? No. Oh, well, great. Okay, some places you'll have like a little hole, and it'll be patched from the back, and they will sometimes write over it. But you've got a little hole there. You know why they have the hole? Because the animal had a wart. So they cut around the wart. Yeah, and they, if it's like this, it's not a problem. But if it's a wart, they cut around it, and then they patch the back of it, so it's still completely usable. They're not going to throw it out because of that. So the more expensive parchments are made from animals that didn't have warts. So, okay, so what needs, you wanted me to look at this, that's not a problem. Usually what needs sewing is if it's separating. This isn't separating. It says you have to realize, let's turn this around. It's got braces on it, which is going to hold it, plus it's sewn, and the sewing is all intact. But you have to realize sewing this stuff is not like, sewing a patch on a Boy Scout uniform. It's not as flexible. It's not as pliable. And the needles we use are more heavy duty, and you have to know how to do it, because if you don't do it right, you can tear the whole parchment. And these are not so cheap that it doesn't matter. But I'm looking at it, this is fine. Because it's not gapping. It's just, when you fold it, it's not perfect. It's never perfect. But we'll show me the others, and I'll tell you what's bad.
This was just a string popped up there.
That's easy to fix. I'll show you. There's a little string there. What would you do if you had a piece of clothes and there was a little string? Yeah, let me. Let's see, I have different things here. I should take them out. Okay. Oops. Ah, here we go. Swiss Army knife. Why don't you clip it where that is? Just pull it and just even it out. You want me to do it?
It looks like it's a connected strand. It doesn't. It's not just a strand by itself. It looks like it's looped. It's a loop. Still cut that too, or?
It's not holding anything there. It means they were sewing it and. Oh no, you ruined it. No.
Yeah, I was like, surgery stuff.
Okay. So what else? Pass it around. Let them see what it is.
This?
Yeah, that's what it's made from. If people want to see it.
What was it made of? I'm sorry.
It's made from animal gut, like from a kosher animal. Like, yeah, it's not string. It's called gittin. This was originally the size of a tennis, not a table tennis, ping pong ball. A little ball of these like this is like $200 because it's the production of it. And they have sofers who specialize in making this stuff. They make this and they make parchment. When I need it, I go to my teacher in Jerusalem. I said, I need gittin. So he goes, take. So he's got a bunch of it. So he just gives me. I had this one, and then I took this one because it looked better. So, but it's the same stuff. Okay, and then let me show you the needles that I use. These are needles that you can buy in a store. If you look, it's a pretty big needle. If you miss it and hit your thumb, it's something. This is called, these are called tapestry needles. You can buy them in the regular sewing stores. But you need a needle like that. Yeah, okay. I have a bunch of other ones that are shorter, but, also pretty heavy duty. They're pretty dangerous if you do. I don't take this on the plane with me. I put it in the checked luggage because I'm sure they would, think I'm a terrorist or something. Okay, and this is just pliers because sometimes you don't want to rip the thing, but you need to pull the needle through. And sometimes it'll come easily and sometimes it doesn't because this is varied in thickness. And if it's too much, you have to pull it without tearing. So, and you only learn it by feeling and doing it in experience. It's like, how they teach tellers at the bank to spot real money from counterfeit? They make them handle the real thing. And then they can feel it and go, this isn't real. It's the same with Torah. You can do this. Anybody can sew. But you have to have a feel for it and to know what you're doing. And like I said, it took me 12 years of study. Well, I started before the 12, but I had a guy looking over my shoulder saying, you didn't do it right. Go back. And which can really get on you sometimes. Okay, so this one's okay too. You want to roll me to the next place where it needs it?
Sure.
You would know, I don't.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
What type of stitch is it called when you stitch it? Is it like a loop stitch, a top stitch, or like what kind of stitching are you doing?
We don't have a name for it. We just, sometimes you just go from up and down, up and down. It depends where it is. And also from different parts of the world, you'll see different ways that they've done it. See, this is great. I don't have to do the rolling.
Bring yours back that way a little bit.
Do you want it this end?
If you don't mind, just a smidge.
That would probably.
I have to tell you, looking at this, well, I don't know what I charged you, but I must have sold it too cheap. It's a nice Torah.
You blessed us with it, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. Here?
That was
let's see. Roll it up so I can see where the tab was. Okay, it doesn't need it. I can put one on, and I might as well do it to show you. The tabs are not necessary. There's some Torahs that have no tabs. There's some Torahs that have them on every page it's just to protect the stitching. That, you know, when you hold it up, you know, you hold Zot HaTorah, if it has no, it pulls against the, that's why you use this stuff. It's elastic enough that it'll pull without destroying it. But if you put a brace, it makes it easier. So let me make a little brace. Do you have the glue?
The glue should be here in a few minutes.
Well, then I'm not going to do it yet. Well, I'll wait if there are any other questions for now.
What did you say about thread is made out of?
I believe it's in some cases, it's called cow gut, basically. It could be from the intestines, and someone read from the tendon, and I guess they can. I've never watched them make it. All I know is this is the stuff, and it's not even. It's not like you get like a thread that's completely even. Some parts are thicker than others, and it's like a very fine twine made of but it's very sturdy. You know, it's not going to rip like if you had some cotton thread. And by using this, everything is kosher. So I'll cut a piece now anyway, just to make a.
So I have to ask you a question, but I have to expose myself too. This is Hebrew languages written from right to left,
Right.
bottom to top.
No, top to bottom.
Okay, so you're not dragging your hand through it.
No. You're reading right to left.
So it would be written, you start all the way at this.
Start at the top here, and you're going this way, and then you're going that way. So this is the beginning, and that's the back. And when we do the double rollers, usually the two, where it has two at the top and one at the bottom, that part we say is for Bereshit, for the Genesis. This is where you start there. And this is Devarim, because it's the end. So almost anytime I put new rollers on a Torah, that's what I do. If I start with Genesis, and I always have the two on top. And you don't mix them up because the bottoms are not the same as the top. Like if you'll notice, the bottom roller is smaller, the handle is smaller on this side than that side. Because when you put them together with the double interlocking things, then they're the same height and you can stand it up. Before this, they used to have only single rollers. And the problem with it was you had to turn it this way or that way. Which way does the roller go? And sometimes it would be angled because it was the wrong side. So this way, it's easier. And we're still waiting. I'm going to put this. Oh,
I had a question about like the Sephardic.
this doesn't really need one here because it's got the other two, but I'll put it on. Okay.
The Sephardic Torah, when we're holding it, like it's so.
The big
big
case?
inside. So what's the difference between that and this when you're like rolling it on the rollers?
Okay. I'm not Sephardic. I've sold Sephardic scrolls. Now, a lot of Sephardic scrolls, most of them, come on the rollers. There are some, I've had people get them from the case, but they wanted the rollers instead, because the reason they use rollers is they're easier.
Yeah.
You know, because you have it in that big case, it opens up, it looks cool, but, to try to roll it is more of a pain. I mean, they can do it. I have one for sale if somebody wants one, but really they look better for show. Or if you happen to be a Sephardic congregation and it's a cultural thing for you, then I'd say go for it. but
So I came from a Sephardic congregation, so I was just wondering how they did the rollers like that.
well,
It
they
looks more tricky than the other one.
they have these, like, they'll have this part, but not, this part's hidden in it. So you're rolling it by
Yeah.
pulling those things. And I said, I'm not as comfortable with it, but I don't use them.
Right.
So, you know, I have them for Sephardic congregations that want them. So I have the case, and then I'll say, well, we want a Sephardic scroll. So I'll get a Sephardic scroll and put it in the case. Just like if you want it on rollers, they go, I got a Sephardic scroll in a case, and they go, well, we want it on rollers. So I'll take it out of the case, take it off, and unsew the ends, and then take the rollers and sew them on that.
How long of a process is that to get them filled? Is it like a couple days that you take? Or
To do what?
to fill the rollers with the whole scroll?
You mean after it's written, or?
Yeah, to place it on initially. How long does it take?
Okay, assuming the Torah is completely written, I can do it in an hour.
Oh, wow.
If I've got people helping with rolling it.
Oh, okay.
If I have to do it myself, which I've had to do, it takes, if it's myself, about an hour and a half. But I can sew the whole thing in an hour. Most of the time it's the rolling.
I was thinking it was like going to take a week.
No.
You had to replace a roller for us before you shipped it. And I believe you said your son helped you with that process.
Yeah.
That's not, you didn't have to take the whole thing off. You just had to take one side off and replace the roller, right?
I think you got it. This is a match set, so I probably sent you, got you a whole new set of rollers. Now, usually when a Torah comes to me, they're shipped from Israel, and they ship them without rollers, and there's a reason for that, because rollers break in shipping. And so, like, when I sent this to you, it was probably like mummified in bubble wrap, because I do not like to have to replace rollers once they're done. And they're not cheap. 30 years ago, we would make rollers in the shop. We had a little wood shop in the back. We had like a set, and you just glued them together and, measure that, because every Torah is different. So the length of it all depends on this. We order them. This is 2 inches longer than the parchment. So you have room for the double rollers. And I guess if you, once you put the rollers on, to do it today, I have to order them. And I order them from a place in Brooklyn, from Hasidic guys who their job is Judaica, but they work for sofas. They make rollers, because most sofas don't make their own rollers today. Except the guy I was with, his partner had like a little wood shop in the back. He kind of is like his hobby, so he made them. But when I order them, they're very nice. They do very good work, but and they ship them bubble wrapped to me, and then I put them on the Torah, and I ship them out to you. But right now, if I order them, they cost with shipping anywhere between $470 and $500. Because that's just for the rollers. And then, so if you need new rollers, I quote you a price for the Torah, and I say, well, the rollers need to be replaced if you want. You can have the original ones, but they're beat up. I have some old rollers that, maybe the plate broke, and so we glued it back, and you can use it. But, usually if you're getting a new Torah like this, you want new rollers. You don't have to. If I have the old rollers, you get them for free. But if you want new rollers, I'm not paying that $500. You pay that $500. But if you do it, I'll put it on. I'm not, there's no charge for it. But, it's what everybody wants. And I think it was a very good idea to have the new rollers put on it, because, they're not worn out. They don't get knocked around and beat up. So, and you get what you pay for. And, even if you can't read the Torah, you want it to look like $1 million, even though you didn't pay $1 million. And so, having a nice cover makes it look good. Like I had people who had congregations that weren't that big, and they said, well, we can't afford the silver. I said, silver is, accoutrements. The silver is not the Torah. The most important thing is what's here. The Torah with the rollers. I usually ship them out, if I have them, with used covers that are, they're not that great. But if you order a new cover, they're also expensive. I used to be able to get a new cover for, again, $100. Now they want like $5. But, it's like 30 years ago. I'm saying, Jackie Mason used to say, every Jew knows a building he could have bought 30 years ago for $8. It's kind of like that. I always think in prices from when I was young. But, I think if I'm buying a Torah, I want new rollers. I have my personal one, the little one I told you about. I got new rollers for it because I wanted it to look nice. This is my Torah for my family and for, when my son was bar mitzvahed, we used my personal Torah, because it's like a family thing. If I don't rent it out for the high holidays, I will loan it to the synagogue so the old people can carry a Torah. The old people. I'm one of them. But it's like mostly old people, and people want to carry it. And if you have a Torah that weighs 50 pounds, not too many people can carry it. So my Torah becomes very popular. So the thing is, the joke is, everybody wants a small Torah with big letters. You can't do it. I mean, I would love if my Torah had letters like this, but you can't. The whole parchment is like this big. There's no way. It won't happen. So it's written smaller. But the letters on my Torah are about the same size as the letters in a Siddur. So they're readable, but it's just like, it's more like for personal use. Like if you're studying or whatever. The Hasidim in the 1600s, 1700s, a lot of them had personal Torahs. Not so popular today, but some people have them.
I have a question. So I bought for my son like a personal Torah, but it's from Jerusalem, but it's like a toy.
It's paper.
It's paper. So I mean, he takes it around for Simchat Torah, but that's about it. When he gets bar mitzvah, do you recommend me like actually giving him a real kosher Torah, or just when he comes to synagogue and gets bar mitzvah, then
If you have, is he going to be bar mitzvah here?
most likely, because we'll be here for a year from now. It's a year out.
All right. Well, let me put it this way. If you want to buy your own Torah to use, that's fine. I'll be happy to sell you one. But it's not cheap. You got 10 grand to just play around with? I tell you, the smaller Torahs are more expensive.
Why is that?
Because they're easy to carry, and anyone can lift it up and do Hagbah. So, convenience costs. If you want something bigger than this and heavier than this, I got it for you. A really nice one, but it's going to cost you. I can get you probably one for about $8,000, a big one. But why do you need to buy a Torah?
No, I was just curious.
You have a congregation here with a beautiful Torah. And my guess would be, if he's going to be bar mitzvahed here, he's going to read from this one.
No, he will. Yeah.
So what do you need to buy one for?
No, it was just out of curiosity.
Yeah, you notice I'm not trying to talk you into buying one. The thing is, if you want to, you can. But, if you got $8,000 to burn, give it to Chevra. Feed a lot of people. But God will be glorified in it. But I'm just saying that, there's nothing wrong with having a Torah. I have one because my teacher had his own. And I'm a sofer because he was a sofer. So for that reason, I have my own Torah. I've had different Torahs because every once in a while, someone wants my Torah, and I sell it to them at a healthy profit so I can afford to get the better one I want. I'm always looking to... I always look to trade up. So I've got my eye on one. Actually, I have one that came in. It's the writing is called Ari. It's a Hasidic writing. It's a little more fancy. Anyway, I just got it. It's whitewashed, but it's lightweight, and it's on deer skin. So I'm deciding if I want it or I'm going to sell it. I would rather sell it because my little one, I had a special cover made for it it's dedicated to my grandparents. So I keep that one. Or if I get a smaller one, it has to fit the cover. But, like I said, you don't need to have a cover. You don't need to have your own Torah. And I wouldn't use the paper one for the bar mitzvah.
No, definitely not. He just uses it for Simchat Torah.
Yeah. Okay. This thing started going off, and I don't know what it's about. Okay. Oh, it's telling me to take my medicine, which I already did. Okay. Any other questions with this?
I was going to ask you, this is the glue. Is that going to work? Keeping polyvinyl acetate acid-free?
It's probably okay. It's like Elmer's, really? All right. Okay, so here's what we do.
Like a piece of paper towel or something.
I can get Elmer's right across the next door over at Dollar General if you gotta have Elmer's.
If it's wood glue, I prefer it. If it's not their wood glue, this is probably okay. It's, looking at what it is. If I can get a paper towel that's just a little moist on one end, that would be good.
That's more synthetic than animal.
Actually, the Elmer's would be better. If even regular white glue would be better. But if they have the yellow Elmer's, yeah, the wood glue.
Thanks, Mary Ann, for that. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, okay. That's like to clean up afterwards. Yeah, okay, so, all right.
In the meantime, we do have another spot as well.
Well, let's tag this spot. And then,
I do have another question. So, I've heard all the urban myths of if somebody accidentally drops the Torah. What do you believe personally? I know some people are you gotta fast if you drop the Torah.
what do I believe? You go straight to hell. No. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
We were at a bar mitzvah and someone almost dropped.
Okay, here's the Aaronic benediction right here.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's the only question I really have for you today is why are the spacings like that sometimes? And then
There's scribal traditions for special things. So this one is there because it's the Aaronic benediction. And some of the oldest fragments of the Torah that we found archaeologically is that passage. So it was a big deal, and it still is a big deal.
Written in the same form, or?
Yeah. Well, let me just say this. This is something I'm sure you didn't know. This writing is not the original writing of the Torah. The original Torah was written in what's called Paleo-Hebrew. And it looks like a bunch of you can barely make out the similarity with the letters. However, when the Jews went to Babylon, they learned Babylonian. These are Babylonian letters. Now, what they did was, when it says that when the Jews came back to Israel from Babylon after the exile, Ezra, with the priests that were with him, were interpreting the Torah for the people who could not read the Paleo-Hebrew anymore. So they transliterated, because the language was letter for letter the same, So they wrote the whole Torah with Babylonian characters, which became Hebrew. But they used those characters from the Babylonians that they use today, that they've used since that time, 2,500 years ago. Does that make it wrong? No. Well, I'll give you an example. Shin, Lamed, Vav, Mem. That spells shalom in Hebrew. Now, if I wrote it out in English, it's S-H-A-L-O-M. And what word is it? The same word, shalom. No change. It's just using different letters. That's what they did with this. They took shalom in Paleo Hebrew, and they rewrote it in what became modern Hebrew. So it's no different. It's still Hebrew. It's still the same words, but they just translated the alphabet to something that other people could read. And that way the people who came back from Babylon could read the Torah because they knew the letters.
Authentic.
Good enough. Look at that. Now, what was that question about what happens if you drop a Torah?
Yes.
Okay, you don't go straight to hell, but you get 7 years bad luck.
That's what I've heard.
But I can get you off in 3. Now, okay, first of all, it's not good to drop a Torah. I mean, sometimes when you drop it, the page will tear. I can repair that. I have a Torah that I have to repair now that has a torn page. And what you do is you get a long strip, as long as the tear, maybe a little bit longer, and I glue it like I'm gluing this, and I glue one side of it on the back, turn it over, and then I put them together to match the letters up so they're in the right place, and then I glue that side. And then you got to wait for like a week. No, you got to wait about like 10 minutes for it to dry, and then roll it up, and it should be fine. So it's the same with this, but you have to repair it. Everything is repairable, and I should tell you that there are different halacha, different rules for the Torah in the workshop than there are in the synagogue. In the synagogue, you don't touch it with your bare hand. You take, your talit or a Bible or a siddur, and you touch it with that and kiss it. You do not take it with your, you don't touch it with your bare hand. That's because it's a ritual moment. In the workshop, I might have to take some steel wool and run it across for the parchment. I may have to scrape off letters with a knife and then rewrite them. I might use an electric eraser to clean up in between, around the letters. That's something you would never do in a sanctuary. But look at it this way. Normally, the human body is such that you're not supposed to stick knives in it. Am I correct? I spent my whole life avoiding someone sticking a knife in mine. However, sometimes you... Are you doing this or should I? It's nice to be old. I can say whatever I want. But anyway, yeah. Oh, no lack of love. I mean, love is there. But thing is, if somebody is dying and they need an operation, it's right and good to cut into them to fix whatever is broken. The same is true with the Torah. It's a different law for different things. If we're sitting here and I stab you, that's a problem. But if you're in the hospital and I am a doctor and I know what I'm doing, you really don't want me doing this. But if I did, I could save your life doing that. So it's the same way. Different laws for different things. So now you don't want to use too much glue because if it seeps out around it, then it gets messy, it gets around, and then it sticks to the other side. And you don't want to do that. Where's that paper towel? Oh, it's on the floor. Thank you. I'm going to use one end and just smooth it out. You don't need a lot of it. Just you want enough that it'll stick. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put this here.
What are those white tabs that you have your hand on reinforcements made out of?
Same thing this is.
Oh, is it the same?
Exactly the same. And this is it.
Okay.
I thought they were Band-Aids.
You know something? I've seen people to do-it-yourself repairs, and I've seen Band-Aids. I've seen them use masking tape, that tan-colored masking tape. Not a good idea, because the glue will yellow and it'll get into the parchment. This won't. So actually, it's sticking pretty. I did a good job with that. There you go. There's no glue around it. Perfect. Okay, so let's go to the next spot you have.
Yeah, our main spots, I think, were there. Everything else was kind of like what you showed us. It's pretty minor.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. If it needs fixing, I'll fix it. But if I see it and it's like that way, but not, it's never going to be 100% perfect. Which I'm a little OCD. I like everything to be perfect, and so you can imagine how frustrated I am in life. But now so let's stop here for a second. You notice the different coloration? Animal head. It's part of the animal's, pigmentation. You've seen cows with black and white, or brown. Okay, so what needs to go? Okay. I'm telling you, I charge you too little. There's an old story from the Lower East Side. There was this couple that owned a store, and the husband would be out selling like a Torah or something, and his wife would be in the back room, and she'd say, "Morris, you're selling it too cheap." Now, you notice here the break between, that means it's a different book. This is Vayikra. Vayikra is what book? Leviticus. That means here starts Leviticus. So now we're going into Exodus. The what? Okay. Okay, let me show you how to tighten this better. Let's see how long I can stand. Okay, see, like this, it's too much room. Let's move this stuff out of the way.
Okay. That was actually a question I was going to ask you, how to roll this better.
Yeah. Watch the needle. Okay, I'm going to put this over here for a second, out of the way, and glue. Okay. Okay, now I want you to hold it tight, like I don't want it to move. Now, yeah,
So you're pulling?
yeah. See, the sewing holds because of the way it's made. If it was made from cotton thread, it would tear. Okay, now that's all you do. So it's done. Don't overdo it because you'll be calling me to come back to fix it. But
Left side justification, and right there are places where it doesn't go out. Is that why? Why didn't they start the next?
it's the end of because it's the end of a sentence. So you have spacing for words, and then you have spacing for sentences, and then you have spacing for books. So it's just simply that. Like, because the rabbi of the synagogue was telling me, he says, like, when we have chapters and verses, that is not from us. That's from the Christian church. What comes from us is the spacing. That's all us. And that's how they did it. In the time of Yeshua, they didn't say, turn to Isaiah chapter 53. They simply would, go to it.
So are you saying all this is one sentence down to there?
No, you'll find some of the letters are like, the words are like a little, very slightly different. Huh?
Are you talking about?
Safid are the ends of the letters. No. You'll find like, if there's an eighth of an inch between words, sometimes there'll be a little more, like maybe 2/8 of an inch or something, like instead of 1/8 of an inch. It makes, but sometimes you have to just be looking at the Tikkun to see where the sentence ends, because you don't always see it as clearly. Usually, if I'm reading from Torah, I'll just start reading, and I'll have somebody stop me when, like, they'll be sitting next to me and they go, that's the end of the sentence, because to sight read it, sometimes you miss it. You have to, I can't sit there and like go word for word for word. You'd be there all day. So you're rattling through it, and then you come to the sentence, and someone goes like that. Well, I see it out of the corner of my eye, and I know to stop. So, did I answer your question?
More or less, I think.
Okay, then.
If you know your Torah, you know where to stop.
Even the people who know their Torah have to practice and familiarize themselves with it, because you are reading without vowel points. And so if you don't pronounce the word properly, you have two guys on either side of you while you're reading, and they stop you if the word isn't pronounced properly. Why? Because it's God's word. So if you respect it, you pronounce it properly. And I'll be sitting in my seat while the rabbi's going and go, should be this. And, but I'm reading along, when I'm get called to the Torah, I'm reading along with him, and when I'm looking at it like this, I can't tell where one sentence ends and the other begins. I mean, as if I sit here and spend enough time, that's where it ends. But it's much easier to have someone stop you at that point. Now, modern Israelis often read Hebrew without vowel points. Vowel points that were put in by the Masoretes. That's why the modern Hebrew text is called the Masoretic text. They put the vowel points in so we would remember how they were pronounced. And even so, with that, there are still different pronunciations for different groups. There are three main pronunciations. There is Ashkenazi, which pronounces the tav with a dot in it as an S sound. So they say Shabbos instead of Shabbat. And Las Vegas instead of Lat Vegat. Oh, wow. But they pronounce it with an S. We do. That's how I was brought up. I like to use Ashkenazi Hebrew. I don't care what anybody else says. When I'm in Israel, I'll use Sephardic because that's the common language. But in prayer, I use Ashkenazi. As far as that goes, the Sephardic simplifies it, and instead of having the S sounds always with a T. So Sephardic would be Shabbat and Lat Vegat. But then you have what is called classical Hebrew, which is more scholarly Christians used it. So instead of saying Beit Zayit, they'd say Beth Zayit. That tav becomes, instead of a sav, it becomes a th sound. In Hebrew, there's no th, except for the classical, what they call classical, or the scholarly Hebrew, or Christian scholarship Hebrew is a better way to put it. Which one's right? I usually go with the people whose language it is. So I would go with Shabbat or Shabbos, not Sabbath. Okay, that's why you have the three pronunciations. Okay, but the letters are the same. It's just simply they decide how to pronounce them.
Is the way that's rolling over there going to allow for this to go in there?
You want to try to bring it so it's always by the double letters. That one should be up. You have a spacer there, but it still should be up. Right now it's probably okay, but after that I would try to move it down more. You can put your fingers in and pull it down.
You can?
Go ahead.
So just hold your leg against it here? Or?
Yeah, just don't break it. Okay. You feel it going a little?
Oh, look at that. Well, that's pretty cool. If
only we'd known that,
You don't want to know, our first year
You-
having the tourist role, it was.
You should have had me come out a long time ago. I could have saved you a lot of problems.
Really funny moments.
Uh-huh.
We were doing our best.
I wouldn't call him funny.
Oh, I would have been laughing.
Well, yeah.
That right there was a game changer. Right, yeah.
Okay, so that was worth the whole trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's good to see you too. I think we're
Yeah.
gonna pay you double now.
Yeah, I can receive that.
So you rolled it and pulled it,
Yeah.
correct?
You don't have to pull it tight every time. Like, I would just roll it, and then after you got 3 or 4 pulls, I would tighten it.
And I was holding on. I mean, I was letting it move a little bit, but I was tightening it up.
How do you do that by yourself? I'm just curious. Do you have a mechanism?
I'm not really that careful with it, so it's all over the place just to get to the end. But once I have one side on a roller, I turn it around, and I do it that, I'm doing it that way, just to, once I get on the roller, I roll it up on it, and then I usually have my son stand, if there's no roller on the other side, put his fingers in it like a paper towel roll, and I just roll it, and I don't tighten it up until I've got the other side down. Once you have both sides down, you can tighten it. But if you do it that way, you'll never go over the thing. So it's much better, and so how it's usually done. Okay.
That's that spot we were talking about right there with the two,
Oh, okay.
just for a second.
Vayikra. Okay. Shmot. Further back is Bamidbar. Okay.
So right there.
Where? This?
Vayikra.
Yeah, now over here, that's borderline. We'll fix that. Because right now it's okay, but it only needs a couple of stitches. But if I let it go, you're going to call me back in 6 months. It didn't hold. So, okay, let's roll it up this way. And then, hold on, I'm going to put this on this side. Here, roll it up this way, and then flip it over. So,
Flip the whole Torah over.
yeah. Take one side and pull it over the other. There you go. Okay, so if I can get my stuff back. All right, now we're going to turn it this way.
Turn it like this.
Yeah. I need the needle, not the glue. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Mask, surgical gloves.
Should get my hands are perfectly clean. Okay. I'm using this one because I want to use it up.
You like to talk while you're sew?
Do I like what?
Like to talk while you're sew?
Yes.
Yes?
I talk while I sew because my teacher did also. How do you think I learned from him? He'd be telling me all kinds of things. I learned a lot. Okay, now if you look at this, if you want to come over here, look at the thickness of this. You can feel that. That could be why it's torn. All I have to do is repair it from here to here. But if you look at the parchment, see how thick it is? You think that's going to be easy to sew? No.
There you go. So nobody gets into it.
This is a professional seamstress. I can see it from here too.
You want to sew it?
I'll let you. I don't have a thimble with me.
I have.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay, this is,
So some of the hides are thicker, like say on the back than on the underbelly.
yeah, for this one I'm going to need that, and I'm going to need a thimble. Usually you don't need a thimble, but here, this will be. Let's see. Let's see if I can use the same hole. Yeah, see, you know what the problem on the other side is? It ripped. Okay. I'm good. Like I said, it's not as easy as it looks.
Put a knot in it.
I do. And since I was a Boy Scout, I use square knots because they don't slip. A Boy Scout is always prepared.
Rabbi, where in New York are you from?
I was born on a small island in the North Atlantic.
Please don't say Staten Island.
It's called Manhattan.
As long as it's not Staten Island, then you're fine. I'm
Okay.
from Rockland County.
Okay. New Jersey. It can. That's why I have more than one. So Nanuet, is that in Rockland?
I used to live in Nanuet.
My cousins owned a Mexican restaurant in Nanuet. El Bandito.
Yeah, I lived in Nanuet. I lived in New City. I lived in right around like Muncie.
Muncie is a very orthodox area.
But it's great because they have an amazing kosher grocery store. So they have everything there.
They do. They have everything there.
You never need a leave.
Then you cross the river.
And then you cross it.
And I have my cousin's brother, also a cousin, lives in Ellenville.
But it bothers me that you're skipping holes.
Tough. They are there. They are there so you can use whatever, whichever ones you want.
With all these women around you watching.
This isn't like for, you're not making like a suit. It just, it just has to hold, and that will hold.
Is it as much a battle with fresh skins?
Fresh skin? That sounds awful. Okay, let's turn it over and see what it looks like. On this side, doesn't matter. Someone take it and flip it over.
That way?
Yeah.
So like to procure the
I'm just looking to see if it looks any better. Yeah. It's over here, so yeah, it's a little better. There's that. Let's bring it back. Needs one more. Where's the needle? Okay.
So is it difficult to procure parchment, kosher parchment?
You have to go to a silver who produces parchment. Yeah. There are always sofas looking to buy parchment, so it's not like it's, that common to get.
Rabbi, are you still in New York?
No, I live in Florida.
Doesn't have to be from a white heifer.
A what?
That's a good question though, but yeah, what kind of animals should it be from?
What?
The parchment?
Any kosher animal.
Not a red heifer.
Yeah, they were asking, yeah, that's right.
That's Christian mythology. All right, let's take a look at it now. That's pretty good. That's going to hold. That's fine. Is that going to bother you?
As long as it holds, we're good.
It's going to hold.
I have to say, when I first came here,
Okay, let's go to the next place where you have a...
All right, I think we are almost there. That was the main spot for us. That was the one.
If that was the main thing, then you're doing pretty good. So there are no more spots?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, in that case, does anyone have any questions? Now's the time. You can ask whatever you
I
want.
have an easy one.
Go for it.
It's not about the Torah. Just about you. You said you were a Kohen.
If it's about me, I'm not talking. What do you think this is?
It seems like an easy question, but I don't know a whole lot. So are Kohen or you specifically from the tribe of Levi or a descendant of Aaron?
Yeah.
What makes you a Kohen?
Well, my father was a Kohen. His father was a Kohen. His father was a Kohen. From birth, yes.
Okay. Now another question. Or you're a rabbi. So are most rabbis from the Levitical tribe, or do they just go to rabbi school and they can be of any tribe, or is there a more predominant percentage?
I like to think it has the call of God involved with it.
Right. I understand
But,
that.
but yeah, to be a rabbi means you studied.
Right.
It means you have studied a lot.
Yes.
So you went to yeshiva or some kind of rabbinical training.
Yes.
Usually it's far beyond a bachelor's degree,
Yes.
more like closer to a doctoral degree. But yeah, it's mostly academic, but also a sense of spiritual,
Yes.
because you can't be a leader of people and not love people.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, these sheep are people you have to care about. And if you don't care about them, you're no leader. So, you know, one of the things I tell the people that I mentor is these are God's children, and He expects you to take care of them. If I left my children with you and you didn't take care of them, I'd beat the crap out of you. And I said, God will do worse. We have a responsibility to show God's love to the people in our congregations. In other words, when you come to a congregation, if I'm the rabbi, and you come to the congregation, you're not coming to get beat up, right? You're coming, you want to be encouraged. You want your heart lifted to God. You want to be encouraged. And whether you heard my message before or not, you want to come to a place where you know God loves you and so do the people. That's my job, to make sure that happens. Sometimes if you're doing the wrong thing, it's my job to tell you. Say, you really messed up, you sinned, you did whatever. Let's fix it. You know, not just to condemn it. Too many people like to condemn. Oh, look what you did. That's nothing. What matters is, you messed up, let's see how we can fix it. You know, you always help, because with God, there's always forgiveness. But there's also repentance, which means fixing it. And so part of the job of being a rabbi is to help people to follow the Torah, to be better versions of themselves than they would be if they didn't. So that's if you come to me. If you come to somebody else, I don't know what they give you. But could be better. Could be, you know, free tickets to something. But, you know, I believe that my job is to encourage people to walk with God and to treat them with the love that God has for them. Like I talked about yesterday, I want people to see God in me. And maybe if you start walking that way, they'll see God in you too. And that will benefit all the people you know.
So I'm just going to ask a little more the same question. So you said yesterday that you feel you're a pastor, basically. You have that role, that calling. So are most rabbis pastor, or some more like teachers or academics? So you can be a rabbi but not really
There are some people who are teachers, but they're not very pastoral.
You personally have that.
I have both. So I am a teacher. I teach in 2 Christian seminaries. Well, a Messianic school and also a Christian seminary that has a Messianic studies program, King's University. But even though I teach there, look, I'm also very pastoral with my students. And I have that. That's why they keep asking me to come back, because I'm always pastoral. I have students who say, Dr. Schiffman, I had an illness in the family, or someone died. Can I have extra time? I said, absolutely. Tell me how I can help you. I had a doctoral student who was studying with me, and his wife died. He's 72 years old. He was going for his doctorate, and his wife passed away. So I said, look, you do what you have to do for your wife, and then you'll take another time. It may take you another year, but you'll finish. And I spoke to the director of the program, because I work under her, and I told her what I said, and she said, that's great. She said, they love how I treat people, because I'm pastoral. I care about people. If they, I don't like if they're being jerks, but as long as they're being decent people, I want to be decent for them. I want that if I do anything for them, it should be a blessing. I'm supposed to encourage you. I'm supposed to care about what happens to you. And if I don't care, I don't deserve to be in that position. That's how I feel about it. And I think people need that. I need it. I have people who are my rabbis, and they may not care about everyone, but they care about me. My rabbi is 87 years old and lives in Jerusalem. He's the one who sends me the Torahs. If this Torah needed repair, he repaired it. And he did a real good job. But when I was in the hospital, he called me like every day from Jerusalem. How are you? Are you okay? What's it? And he still calls me all the time. And when I sell a Torah, he goes, where's the money? But he has to live on it. He's very poor. But he watches over me. He takes care of me. And that's what a shepherd does. He looks over the sheep. He doesn't do everything for the sheep, but he encourages them to do what they're supposed to and try to be a help, an encouragement, a blessing. That's what the calling is about. Anybody can stand up and, spout off what they think is on their mind, but that's not, many years ago, one of my mentors said, look, get over yourself. People are not coming, and they're not going to remember all the pearls of wisdom, the gems that you're going to put out there in the pulpit. That's not going to help anybody. What will is the life of the man in the pulpit. Your life will impact other lives. And that happens in the course of ministry, along with teaching, along with all of that. My life lived in front of people is what will touch lives and change lives. And that's not because I'm so wonderful, it's part of the calling. And I just accept that. In other words, I'm not going to give you gibberish when I stand in the pulpit, but that's not what's going to change your life.
You're going to live what you say.
My heart for people is what will change your life or somebody's life. Because either you will go, I feel that way too, and get involved, or you might say, I should feel that way and I don't. Why don't I? And it might start you feeling that way. And go, wow, I didn't realize it's not all about me. That's what everybody needs to learn. This isn't, a place of entertainment. You like Davidic dancing? Fine. You like music? Fine. But you didn't come here for that. If you did come here for that, you got everything you needed. You came here to be in God's presence. You came here to have your heart lifted up to God. We were talking the other day, and I said, my idea of worship, this is what I tell all my students, is Isaiah chapter 6. I was in the temple in the year King Uzziah died, and I saw the Lord high and lifted up. That's my goal. That's what I want to see. I want to see the Lord high and lifted up. Does it happen every week? No. But that's what I'm aiming for. If you don't aim for something, you're never going to hit it. So I want that, and I want people to feel that. And there are times when people do feel it. But it's not just the feeling, but the sense that if you come to a service that I'm leading, I want you to encounter God there, whether through me or not through me. I want you to encounter him, because you can meet me and say, wow, nice guy, but you're not going to have, it doesn't take your breath away to meet me. If you meet God, it takes your breath away. And that's what we want. That's what I want. To me, that's what real spirituality is. I want God to take my breath away at everything I do, because it's the best. Questions? That was good. I should take up an offering.
I do have a question about when Torahs get like burned in a fire or damaged. Like, how do you go about restoring something, a flood?
Okay.
Cut out certain sections and keep certain parts, or just redo the whole thing? Bury it?
You have to tear it up and start all over. No. It depends on what was damaged and how it was damaged. In the city of Kishinev, in 1903, there was a pogrom, and they came into the synagogues and they shredded the Torahs. And so they literally put them in coffins and buried them. Normally, a Torah is a holy thing. Whether it's kosher or not, it's still holy. Why? Because it's God's words, written on parchment by a godly sofer. This is holy in and of itself. I cannot make it unholy. I can make it unusable. I can make it, unkosher, but it will never be unholy. So, if a Torah is damaged beyond repair, like in a fire, if there are portions that are good, yeah, I could take those out and wait, and I may find a Torah that needs that portion if it's the same size, and then I can use that. If not, I can put it, I can bury it. You're not allowed to throw it out. You can bury it, because throwing it out is putting it with garbage. But you can bury it and let it decompose naturally, like you do with a person's body when they die. But the other thing they do when they're older and not kosher and they're falling apart, you can't fix, there's too much to fix, they put it in what's called a geniza, which is a section in the back of the synagogue for old books and things. And there was a very old synagogue in Cairo. It was called, and they had a geniza. And in the 1800s, Solomon Schechter, who was big in the conservative movement, went and found in the Cairo geniza ancient manuscripts, scripts, hundreds and hundreds of years old, because these last a long time, but what survives over time is limited. I mean, you have the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are like over 2,000 years old. But they also, let's put it this way. My teacher once, when he lived in New York, called me over and says, come and look at this. He showed me a leather Torah. Some of the Middle Eastern ones are made of leather, not parchment. It means it's thicker. It's kind of like lambskin that tears more easily. He showed me this Torah, and he said, this Torah is 800 years old. And I said, how do you know? He said, look at the letters, the way they're written. They stop writing them that way after a certain time. Because this was written in the 1200s. So I said, How do you know? He goes, from those things. Then he said, I called up the head of Jewish studies at Brooklyn College. Said he was an old classmate of mine. I called him up and said, have you ever seen an 800-year-old Torah? And the guy said, no, they don't exist, only in fragments, little pieces. He said, I have a whole one sitting right here. The guy said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He showed up and it blew him away. He wound up selling it to Sotheby's auction house. Well, they sold it on the auction house. They didn't sell it to it. And it was bought up by a museum for almost $400,000. And he felt he lost money. And he had partners with it, so he didn't get to keep it all himself. And then someone swindled him, and he lost everything he had. That's why I sell the Torahs for him, because he has to live on them. But those things are rare, but they come about. He was even able to match the Sofer. He knew who. That's almost unheard of. We have no idea who wrote this, but the handwriting in that Torah was the same as the handwriting in a Haggadah from Spain in the 12th century, and they knew who wrote that because it wasn't. They don't sign Torahs, but they do sign things like Haggadahs. So they knew it was the same author. So that was very rare, and it was a very big deal. So I would show him this Torah, and he would tell me where it was written. I've learned some with it. I can tell you this was written early to mid 20th century. It's a really good Torah. Older doesn't mean used. Actually, it is used, but new Torahs are way more expensive. But this is, like I said, a really good Torah. This is any synagogue in the country would be thrilled to have this Torah. And what was I trying to say with this? It just is. It's a good thing that you have it, but it's also probably, I'm guessing, Polish before the war, or possibly Romanian or Hungarian, that region. So, it definitely wasn't from more Western Europe. It's from there. And you can tell from the style of it and the size of it and everything else. My teacher, Yitzchak, could probably say a lot more about it. If I could do that, it'd be something, but I can't. But I used to go with him to museums, and he'd go, that's labeled wrong, that one's put together wrong. And he'd be, and so I learned a lot from him. He was kind of like a Renaissance man. He also knew architecture. So I would drive him around Brooklyn, and we see these old wooden houses that look like they were falling apart. He goes, in the 1830s, sea captains lived there. And because they had the docks there and everything. And because they used to have nice, porches, but they rotted. They took them off, and then, but, and then he lived in an old brownstone, which they no longer, they're unbelievably expensive. He sold it, and but he's a kind-hearted man. He taught me most of what I know about Torahs and about Judaism. And he knew who I was. He knew what I believed. And because we were sitting across, I never told him. I was sitting across from him at a kosher Chinese restaurant in Brooklyn. And he looked at me and said, I just want you to know, I know. And I was like, what do you know? He goes, you know. And I said, how'd you find out? He said, I Googled you. And I said, does it bother you? He said, no. I said, why didn't you throw me out? He said, because you're bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. I'm his student. So that's why I take care of him now. That's why I watch over him, whatever he needs. Sometimes I didn't sell a Torah, but he needs money, so I try to send him something. I arranged from our humanitarian work in Israel to send him some food because he didn't have. So I take care of him because it's paying back the debt that I owe him for all I learned from him. You know, that's showing respect. You take care of them. It's how you show respect for your parents, too. They have needs, you help them. Of course, my kids I never hear from, but that's another story. Okay. Any questions? Other questions?
Yeah, I see some handwriting on
On the outside, right there. Right here.
Yeah, what was that?
Just how they connect the panels together? Or?
No, this is... The Sofer wrote on that side to put a little note to himself about it. It doesn't make it unkosher. It doesn't do anything. It's just... Sometimes you'll find them in pencil or whatever there. It doesn't affect it because when you flip it over on the other side, you don't even see it.
Just adds character.
It's like
It's kind of like that.
basically,
The what?
sort of his working notes.
Yeah.
Doing a big document.
Or he might have said this Torah belongs to so-and-so, get it back to them because it was brought in for repair. And so they just never removed it. Now, you want to remove it, you get a drafting eraser, one of those electric power erasers, and you could just go over it and it'll come off.
I like the character of it. Leave it.
Yeah.
It's part of its history. You know?
Plus it says shalom. Can't do that.
What doesn't say?
There are actually a few, when Garrett and I went through the scroll last week, there are a few places where there's, I think we took pictures of it.
It could have been like belonged to Beth Shalom or something like that.
I did have a question about the parchment, right here, actually. There's a spot that, some of them get kind of, there it is, a little bit imprinted on or pressed against. Is that something to be concerned about, or?
No. Sometimes they even get little tears and you don't be concerned about it. You try to avoid that, but if it happens, it's not. As long as it doesn't affect the letters, it's okay. Now, there's a halakhic reason why you have so much space at the bottom and at the top. You're not allowed to have them come close to the end. Why? Because things get beat up on the ends, and you don't want to have anything that'll harm the writing. Because the writing is what makes it holy. So,
If there is a tear or if there's risk of one, can it be trimmed at all, or that's?
some cases they're trimmed. This Torah was probably trimmed at least once. Other things you can do, other than trim it, is sometimes you take some parchment like that and glue it along the bottom. Because one of the problems when you have Torahs in old buildings, like old sanctuaries, you have sometimes mice. Mice eat parchment. And I've seen them where they've eaten up a section. And sometimes you have to replace a panel, and sometimes they'll just glue the back and then they'll write into it. So, but you don't throw out the Torah because of it. So it depends how they fix it and what they do. And fixing they can do a good job or a bad job. If they do a bad job, the Torah is devalued. If they do a good job, it keeps it at its good value. So like you notice how I fixed this, with the sewing. It was not easy to do. It's very thick parchment there, but which is why it probably came loose in the first place. But it's in a way that is not noticeably different from anything else in the Torah. So it's fine.
So when you have a mezuzah and there's like a kosher scroll in there, say it got ruined or something, or you moved, or you found someone, and you feel like you need to like bury it or something, would you have to do it, or do you just you can bury it on your own?
You can bury it on your own, but what we normally would do is when we had the shop on the Lower East Side, we had a deal going with one of the Jewish cemeteries. And so every couple of months, we had a big cardboard box full of stuff that had to be buried. Like, and that's, parchment and things. The rollers don't have to be buried. I'll get to that in a minute. But what we would do is we get old to fill in things that were, not usable anymore, mezuzah parchments, for example, and we would send them to the cemetery. They would dig a grave a little deeper, bury it, and then bury somebody on top of it. So it didn't affect anybody. It just went a little deeper, and it fulfilled,
Would that be considered an honor to be buried on top of the Torah?
I would think so. But the other that's why no one complains about it. The other thing is, excuse me, the rollers are not holy in and of themselves, like a Torah scroll is. They're just not. But they do have a level of holiness because they were used in a holy thing. They held the Torah. So we have there are like levels of holiness, and the way it goes is this: you can elevate something to a holier usage, but you can't take something that was used for a holy usage and lower it. In other words, I can't take an old Torah roller and decide I can put paper towels on it and make it a towel rack, because it was used for a holy purpose. So you can elevate them, but you never, bring it down. So what we would do, I have a bunch of old rollers around my house when I've had to replace rollers. I can't throw them away. But if I go to a fire, like a bonfire, I can throw them in and burn them. What we used to do in New York, across the street from our store was a park, and there were homeless people in the park. In the winter, they had like these big, 50-gallon drums that they would burn things in to keep warm. So we brought our old rollers to them, and the homeless people kept warm with it. That was perfectly acceptable. The reason is, if you take something and burn it, it's like a burnt offering. You take it out of use. But it's like, this is an old saying in the Talmud, they declared the human body unclean, unkosher. Why? Because if it was not considered unclean, a dead body, people would make furniture out of their ancestors' bones. And people would do it. Oh, this is made from my grandfather's legs. We live in a society, tell me that wouldn't happen. You look at the people in the world. It would definitely happen.
Carrying their ashes around and all kinds of.
They do. They make jewelry out of people's ashes. And the thing is, as a Kohen, I can't even go to a funeral, let alone have and touch anything that was part of a human body, because it's considered unclean. So I don't. But when my brother-in-law passed away, they weren't Jewish. They did a cremation, and they had the guy's ashes in the living room. And I told my sister-in-law, I can't come into your house if that's there. I mean, you can put it in another room and it's okay. I can't sit in your living room with that there. So she knew and she understood, and she goes, I forgot, and she moved it. But I just wouldn't do it, because if you do it, it's okay. It's not a sin. It's not wrong. You can go to a funeral. You can touch the casket. Whatever. I'm not allowed to. For me, it's a sin. So I don't, and I'm only allowed to do this for immediate members of my family. So my grandparents, parents, brothers and sisters, God forbid, children, are the only ones I can go to a funeral for. Now, sometimes I'll go to a funeral for an aunt or uncle, but I don't go in the place. I don't go where the body is. And if I'm at the graveside, I'll be standing on the road. I won't go in because you might step on someone's grave, which normally is okay. That happens in cemeteries, but I don't. I've gone to the graves of my ancestors, but I've seen my grandfather's father's grave. I go visit my parents' grave, but that's it. So the whole issue of what's clean and unclean, there are reasons for it, and I think they're good reasons. That's why you don't ever see funeral homes named Cohen.
Right.
I wondered if you were a physician too, if you had patients that passed, if that was permissible, if you were a
If you were there trying to save a life, you can be there. Almost every mitzvah can be, any forbidden mitzvah can be excused if it was for saving a life. Now, Pekuat nefesh. But at the same time, if I, in my pastoral role, I've had people in hospice. And if I was assured that they were not on their deathbed at that point, I would go to visit them. If they were like on the verge of dying, I wouldn't go in the room. I'd show up for the family, but I wouldn't go in the room because of that. One of my very close friends passed away in California, and he had cancer. It was terminal. Everybody knew it. And the family sent out a message saying, stop calling and trying to come over because he's weak and he's tired. And I sent them a message. I said, I don't want to see my friend dead. I want to see him before he goes. And they said, you can come. So I went, and I spent a week with him, and I just sat with him. And I read from the Siddur with him. And he was a Messianic rabbi. And when he was about to die, I left the room and did not go back in. But I was there for the family, and I was there for him until then. And I felt good about it. But there are ways, you find ways to work around things without transgressing. Because you want to honor God, but you also want to honor the people. And so you find a way to do it. Other questions?
Can I say something related to what you said?
Am I going to like what you say?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's kind of important to me. No, go ahead.
I think it should be okay.
All right, well,
Father Tim yesterday asked about
I'll take a chance on you. Go for it.
a non-Jewish family member or relative with a funeral on Sabbath. And my very limited understanding was, not for a Cohen, but say for Brother Tim or someone else, say in this congregation, it's important to show that love and concern for that family, that next door neighbor, whatever. Wouldn't that sort of outweigh the negativity of going on the Sabbath? That's just my thinking.
My thing
Do
is,
you have any?
well, what I said yesterday was if they're not Jewish, you can do it on the Saturday. It would, my thing is, when it comes to funerals, this is my pastoral thing. You do whatever comforts.
That family.
Period. You just do whatever comforts. The whole purpose you bring in food is to comfort, because food comforts. Usually macaroni and cheese, but I mean, but whatever it is, it comforts people. Showing up comforts people. I used to do a whole thing in my congregation when someone died. I would give people a lecture on what they should and shouldn't do. Here are some of the things you don't do. Don't go up to them and say God needed them more than you did. And don't say they're in a better place now. And don't try to make sense of it all, because you're not going to do it. It's not going to help. And don't just say you were very lucky to have them and tough. That's not comforting. All you do is you go up to, because people say stupid things because they don't know what to say. Because what do you really say when someone died? So what I tell them is, this is all you do. Go there, hug them. If you're close enough of a friend, kiss them on the cheek and say, I'm sorry, and I care about you. That's all they need to hear. Tell them you love them. But give them a hug and say, I'm sorry. That's all they need to hear. Nothing's going to comfort them. If you look at the book of Job, Job lost everything he had. His house, all his possessions, his animals, his children, 12 children, all died. Then his body got full of sores, and he sat in the ashes. And his wife stood over him, typical, and said, why don't you just curse God and die? That's what it says. And then it said, but he remained in his integrity. But then it says his 3 friends came, and they sat with him for a week and said nothing. That was the best thing they did. You don't have to say anything. Nobody cares what you say. You don't have magic words. Sit there with them. Let them know you care. I cared enough to come and to be with you so you wouldn't be alone. And then they started talking, and they messed it all up for the rest of the book. And then God rebuked them for the terrible things they were saying, which they thought were right. Well, you must have done something to cause this. That didn't help anybody. And God said, you're wrong. He didn't do anything. And he said, where were you when I created everything? You know what the book of Job's really about? It's a great book. Most people miss it. It's not just about speaking or not at a funeral. The book of Job is telling us do we trust God when we don't understand what's happening or why something's happening? We face that in life. Things happen, you don't know why they happened, but they happened. Can you trust God through that? Most people only want to trust God for what they understand. Guess what? If you understand, you don't need to trust God because you know. You have to trust God for what you don't understand. And the book of Job is telling us there are times in your life where you won't understand why things happen. And God's saying, trust me. And that's what we have to do. And when people are dying, it's like one of those times. So you just have to trust him. And God brings people around to you when you're struggling and suffering. And it's like reminders that he's there. But there are no magic words. I was in the hospital 8 times in the last 18 months. I had friends calling me because they thought I was dying. In fact, they'd call me. I say, you have any prayer requests? Let me know. I'm real close to God right now. And I meant it. But, God had me live. I'm glad he did. But it mattered to me that people called just to see how I was. And that's all we need to do. Your presence will be a comfort. It's a ministry of presence. It only gets ruined when you open your mouth and start talking to people about it. And I don't mean to sound mean about it. It's the truth. When have you ever heard something brilliant come from someone's mouth at a funeral? And I don't mean at the service, I mean afterwards. People don't know what to say, so they say dumb things. And then they feel bad about it. When my grandmother died, my grandparents were married 70 years. They were she was in her late 90s. My grandfather was 100 years old. And he was devastated. And one of their neighbors came in, and we were at my parents' house. That's where we sat Shiva. And my father and I went in the kitchen because we didn't want to deal with that. So we were listening. I told you, my father's deaf, so I was telling my father what she was saying. And she was saying, you were very lucky to have her, and you should just be thankful that you had her then. And my grandfather was crying. I said, she made my grandfather cry. So I told my father, I'm going to stop this right now. So I walked in, and I said, thanks for coming, but we have to go somewhere. So thanks for being here, but you're going to need to go. but we appreciate it. She said, thank you. And she left feeling good. And I looked at my grandfather. He said, where are we going? I said, we're not going anywhere. I did that for you. And he was happy. But people say they're well-meaning. You know, I'm not going to criticize them that way. They're well-meaning. But you can do a lot of damage while you're well-meaning. And pastorally, I care about the people who are suffering. And I want them to be comforted. And if you're going to say something dumb and I see it coming, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to say, don't say that. You know, and people think they know better. People always think they know better. They know more than God. But, you know, or the Lord told them, which is their excuse to do whatever they want. The reality is, if you are going to comfort people, try to comfort them. Don't try to make yourself feel like you did something. If you don't know what to say, send food. Buy a box of cookies. It'll do better. You know, if nothing else, they'll give the cookies to people who come. When I was sitting Shiva, I looked at the stuff people brought. If I liked it, I stuck it away in the freezer. And if the stuff I didn't care for, I put out for the guests. Someone sent me a tray of kosher deli. I said, there's no way I'm going to let people eat that.
Do you think that's where we got sitting Shiva from? Is from the book of Job, or had it been already a tradition before?
No, it was just our tradition, but in Job it carries through. So whether Job is considered one of the oldest books in the Bible. So whether it came first or not, I don't know. We find in the Bible that in the time of Abraham, before the Torah was written, could have been the time of Job, but before the Torah was written, when Abraham grieved, he sat Shiva. You know, there were times in the morning, it was part of the culture of the ancient Near East anyway. But all the rules of mourning in Judaism are meant to comfort, every one of them. And I found that when my parents passed away and my grandparents, they really do comfort. Sitting for 7 days, having people come to you. You know, when you have a Shiva house, you sit there, people who come to you, you don't wait on them, they wait on you. And it's comforting. People would call me and say, Rabbi, we want to come, we want to bring some food, what do you need? You don't need more chickens, because they sent, you know, a bunch of roasted chickens. Deli would be nice, you could bring in a pizza if you want, or whatever. Some Chinese food, I love egg rolls and, you know, beef and broccoli, you know, something like, people would bring it. I had my cigar friends bring cigars. I had a great time with them. We sat around and I thanked them. They were honoring my father by coming. And the things that we do should be things that comfort for anybody. You know, I hope you don't have too many funerals in your life that you have to do that. But when you do, just keep in mind, my job is to bring comfort, not to have such extreme wisdom that nobody has, because there are no words that really comfort. Read the book of Lamentations. There is no sadness like unto my sadness. How do you comfort that? What magic words are there? There are none. Just say, God loves you, I love you, and I care, and I'm sorry. That's all people need to hear.
I'll sit with you as long as you need.
Yeah. And Ty said, I'll stay here as long as you want. You want me to get out of here, just let me know. But I'm happy to be here with you. Or I wouldn't say happy, it's bad choice of words. But I'm very content to sit here with you if you want, and if it's okay with you. I really don't want you to be alone. And that's people, you say that to people, they'll be grateful. If you don't try to philosophize on the death, you know, they'll be more than grateful. But, you know, it really comes down to what do you want to be. If you want to stick a knife in and twist it, then do what my grandfather's neighbor did. You know, you don't want to make people cry. because they probably cried enough already. Other questions about the Torah or anything? How'd we get onto funerals anyway?
I do have a question about like siddurim and like if you have say like just a Tanakh in your house that gets ruined or something and do you just bury that and that also like if you have like a Christian Bible or any kind of Bible, do you recognize that? Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is more of like a photocopy, it's not a scroll. Do you still bury those types of books as well, or what do you feel about that?
That's the kind of stuff you put in a geniza. Now, this is holy. A printed Bible is not. It's a translation. It's not even a real translation. It's like what was called a targum, like a free interpretation translation. And they had them in the time of Yeshua. The Jonathan Targum, there was the Targum Onkelos, that were very good, but they weren't word for word, they weren't exact. And even the Septuagint was not authoritative that way. And today, I would say the same thing. A chumash is important. If it gets old, you put it in a geniza. Maybe the synagogue has a place for old books, and they store them there. But you definitely don't throw it away. But it's also not the same as a Torah scroll.
I struggle with that too because I say, should I burn it? You know, if it's a Bible falling apart,
If
what
it,
do I do with that? You know,
I don't,
it's
I donate it.
somebody, or somebody, yeah.
Salvation Army may want it.
No.
If it's not destroyed, I would donate it. But
Well,
if
it's destroyed.
if
That
it-
I think
if it's
would be
destroyed,
if it's destroyed.
either I would bury it, or
Yeah.
put it in a geniza, or if it's really beyond recognition, you can burn it. But it would have to be beyond recognition. I don't like burning books.
My Bible was in a flood and it got all moldy, and so it's like black mold. And I wrapped it up in plastic and I didn't know what to do with it, so I'm like, do I bury it or
Very.
Bury it.
bury it?
It's a health hazard too.
I know.
Rabbi, can I ask,
It was leather too.
so, so, not to take us too much further down, but it is a question for me, like, you prepare a sermon, you have some scripture quotes on your paper,
Hmm.
and then, again, it's not the Torah scroll, but, if,
My sermons, as good as they are not the Word of God. And neither is anybody else's.
so, but I don't wanna throw it in the trash. I have burned it in the past because we have an outdoor stove, but I don't wanna do that if that's inappropriate.
Sermon, no. Sermon is your words. And just because it has a verse of Scripture in it, or a few verses of Scripture, doesn't make it the same. It's like if a rabbi writes a sermon and he's quoting from the Torah, it's not the same as the Torah. He's not going to... it's not treated the same way. We used to have people come and if they had photocopies of portions of the Torah, they would bring them to us to burial because they had God's name on it, you know, Yud Hey Vav Hey. And so normally they'd go for burial or you could burn them, but usually for burial. But technically they're not because this is what's holy, not the Xerox copy. It's like there are people who buy mezuzahs, you know, the cases, and because they look nice and whatever, but then they get, you know, they're for show for a lot of people. They get the paper Xerox of one. And they're not kosher, they're not even holy. They're Xeroxed. So I was at a friend's house, because I have real mezuzah parchments in all my mezuzahs on every door of my house. except for bathrooms and closets. So I went to a friend's house, and I knew he was not that observant. And I was going to touch his mezuzah because I do that. I said, wait a minute, is there a parchment in this or a Xerox? He said, a Xerox. I said, never mind. I didn't do it. And he was like, oh, how could you do that? Because you didn't bother to do the real thing, so why should I, just like you kiss a Torah, you touch, you kiss. Did I go over why we touch a Torah with your book or did I mention that to you?
Briefly, yes.
All right, well then you got it, okay. Other questions?
So if you're, say like you're doing an activity with like a bar mitzvah class or anything like that, would it be inappropriate to have them like write their own like cloth or whatever and put it in a mezuzah, like teach them how to do like scribe, or should that just only be for like a professional and do that professionally? It shouldn't be like
It needs to
an
be,
activity.
like I said, this isn't arts and crafts.
Right.
So I would say no.
Okay.
If they want to, I've seen Christian adaptations where they try to take a mezuzah case. They say, you can put any verse you like in it. So someone put John 3:16 in it, which is great, but it's not a mezuzah.
Right.
Do I agree with John 3:16? Yes, I agree with John 3:16. Does it belong in a mezuzah? No. So, there are a lot of great things in the Bible that don't belong in a mezuzah. And it's misleading because if any Jewish person comes in and sees your mezuzah and wants to touch it, and they do, it's kind of misleading because you have something in it that isn't supposed to be. So the Bible doesn't command us to do what you like. A lot of people in our society want to do whatever they like. And a lot of worship services in churches have become entertainment centers. I've heard of a church that had a baptismal with a water slide. They slide down into it. And I thought, that's disgusting. There's so much stupidity out there, you wouldn't believe it. But we do it. And because they want to compete for, with entertainment to have people come in. And so they get big bands of music and they'll do more of that. And especially the big mega churches. But that's not what worship is. Worship isn't entertainment. Because some things I will tell you will comfort your heart. But some things I'll tell you will convict you. Because maybe you're not doing everything right. Because nobody's doing everything right. And if I tell you that you're doing wrong, that may not be entertainment. But it is the truth. And it is important for a closer walk with God. Because God expects us to do better than we're doing. He forgives us. But when he forgives us, he expects us to do a better job than we did up to now. That's what forgiveness is about. Look, I'll put it this way. Do you know what redemption really means? 15 years ago, more than that, my doctors told me I needed to have surgery or I was going to die. I had 5 years. And I went to the insurance company. They said, yeah, we know about that surgery, but we don't cover it. And I said, I can't afford it. They said, well, sorry. I said, the doctor said, I'll die. And they said, sorry. So I said, I hope you die too. I was not happy. Insurance, they're heartless. So I started telling my friends, if you want to see me, you better do it in the next 5 years because I'm going to be dead. And they were like, what's going on? And I told them. I had one guy, who's kind of a jerk. He sent me a diet. I said, try this. I said, you got to be kidding me. So, in other words, no, it did nothing. When I said to my friends, I'm going to die in 5 years, one of my friends said, I will raise the money for you. And I said, I didn't believe it. I said, look, it needs a lot of money, thousands of dollars. I needed $15,000 at that time for that operation. And I knew my friends, like, they were good, like, for $100, because they weren't rich either. They didn't have a lot of money. It wasn't going to happen. So I didn't think much of it, except 3 months later, my friend called me back. We raised all the money. Go have your surgery. So I went, and it changed my life. And in a sense, this is what happened. I realized my friends, I asked the guy who gave money, who collected the money, who gave and how much did they give, Normally in a congregation, if I'm leading it, I don't want to know what people give. But this wasn't a congregation. These are people who gave for my sake. And I wanted to know who gave what. You want to see who your friends really are. And the people who gave the most, $1,000 or more, were people who didn't have a lot of money. And they said, our friend Michael needs this surgery. Can you help? And I realized the people who gave, mostly, gave sacrificially. And they gave sacrificially to redeem my life. And that obligated me to live my life in a way that honored their sacrifice. That is what is supposed to happen when you're a believer. Yeshua sacrificed that we would live. And we're supposed to live our lives in a way that honors his sacrifice. We don't do it. But that's what we should be doing. And I only learned that because of what happened to me. So maybe that's why things happen to me all the time. But the thing is, we need to be living our lives in a way that honors God's sacrifice, Yeshua's sacrifice for us. And that's what it means to present your life as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God.
Amen.
Okay, I'm going to take up that offering now. Okay.
So on offerings, like money to Chevra, did I pronounce that right?
Chevra,
Sorry.
no problem.
We can just put it in our regular BZ envelope and say, this much tithe, this amount to Hebron.
If you do, I think they'll send it to me.
Yeah, okay.
So I said I have to give them 10% of it. No, I'm just kidding.
Finder's fee.
No, but seriously, you could do that. They would send it sooner or later.
You can also go to myhevra.org.
Yeah, myhevra.org. And
Yeah, I got the flyer.
yeah, if you take the flyer, yeah, it's in the flyer. It's very easy to do. So I forgot what I was going to say, but it was going to be funny. All right.
Are you ready to transition into eating? Or?
I'm good. Yeah, I could do that. If there are no more questions.
And we got through the whole scroll.
Yeah, that was the one spot. Yeah, everything else.
And we fixed it.
Very good.
Okay.
You had to roll it backward.
To the correct spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Not too far away.
Roll back to the person.
That's not my job.
I'll do that.
But you learned how to roll it properly.
Thank you for,
Yeah.
and that really changes the world right there. I didn't know you could actually do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I help a little bit with the procession of the Torah, but I'm not the guy usually handling it. But I know that was huge when I guess we were just afraid to, manhandle it a little bit, and,
That's why I said there's a different halakha.
yeah. Game changer.
Well, it's not really that honoring to the Torah if it's put away sloppy. So
Now we know.
you're allowed to fix it. You're allowed to make it get better. Okay, well, thanks, everyone.